Hey guys, it's Maggie, aka DogLover376, and this is my vlog on speed dating. I posted on my Christian Mingle account that I'm really interested in historians. So I'm here at Panera, ready to begin my speed dating. Oh look, first guy's here. Hey, I heard you were a historian. Can you tell me what you know about the continued expansion of the United States?
I am a historian. The geographical expansion of the U.S. had continued from the time it declared independence and began to involve the acquisition of overseas territories. This occurred during intense European imperialist activity. In 1867, the U.S. acquired Alaska from Russia and recognized it as a territory in 1912. Hawaii's strategic location caused a steady increase in the American presence on the islands throughout the 1800s. By the 1880s, American economic power in Hawaii was overwhelming, and in the 1890s, the overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani's government by American planters led to the annexation of Hawaii. The expansion of the U.S. naval power went hand in hand with the acquisition of overseas territories.
Do you know anything about Woodrow Wilson?
I sure do. As a matter of fact, in 1914, all of Europe went to war. President Woodrow Wilson was determined to stay out of the conflict and campaigned for re-election with the slogan, "He kept us out of war." Although Wilson did not keep the nation out of the European War, in the election of 1912, he defeated the former president Theodore Roosevelt, who was ready much sooner than Wilson to go to war.
Do you know about Theodore Roosevelt?
I sure do. Actually, during his time as president, Roosevelt had a more active approach to foreign policy and sought successfully to keep peace with the world. Presidents Roosevelt and Wilson were the dominant figures in U.S. international relations between 1898 and 1920.
Do you have anything else to add, like the expansion of the U.S. Navy?
Admiral Alfred Thayer Mahan of the U.S. Navy laid the foundation for the geographical expansion of the United States in his book, The Influence of Sea Power Upon History, published in 1890. But don't you want to know about me as a person? Because we're on a speed date, right?
No.
Well, okay.
Bye. Here comes the next one. A hottie. So I hear you're a historian. Can you tell me what you know about the history of Alaska in relation to the United States?
You betcha. Actually, long before Admiral Mahan of the U.S. Navy called for greater U.S. control of the oceans, the U.S. assumed ownership of the huge Russian territory called Alaska.
Where are they getting all of these pictures?
Control of the vast Russian territory was in the hands of the private Russian-American company. American settlers became interested in the fishing, whaling, and fur trapping that Alaska had to offer. Secretary of State William H. Seward coordinated negotiations to purchase Alaska from Russia, settling on a price of $7.2 million.
Do you know what people in the U.S. thought about this?
You betcha. U.S. citizens referred to this deal as Seward's Folly or Seward's Icebox, as a way to make fun of Alaska, since they wondered why Seward would want that territory when it was so far away, it was cold, and seemingly invaluable. After purchasing Alaska, the United States government did not do much with it until 1884, when Congress created an official form of government in Alaska. As its population increased, President Taft signed legislation in 1912, officially giving Alaska full territorial status.
Can you tell me what you know about the history of Hawaii?
You bet I know this. It was in Mahan's time that the U.S. annexed Hawaii. Hawaii's strategic location halfway between California and Japan, and its harbors that were perfect for American whaling vessels. Hawaii's Pearl Harbor was the perfect stopping place for trans-Pacific steamship lines, leading the U.S. to gain rights to the naval base at Pearl Harbor in 1887. Native Hawaiians, who were now a minority in their own country, did not want further U.S. influence in their country.
Do you know if there was any conflict which occurred because of this?
You betcha. Queen Liliuokalani sought to reduce the economic and political power of the United States in Hawaii, but was overthrown by the American planters led by Sanford Dole on the island who formed what was called the Annexation Club and seized power.
So, how did the U.S. gain Hawaii as a territory?
In 1896, William McKinley was elected president and sought to annex Hawaii as part of the nation's manifest destiny. He accomplished his goal, causing Hawaii to become a permanent territory of the U.S. in 1898, in spite of the protests of the native Hawaiians.
Okay, you can go now.
You bet I will.
Oh, here comes the next one.
Hi.
So tell me about yourself.
How about I tell you about the tensions in Cuba? The war against Spain started in Cuba because of U.S. interest in acquiring Cuba. Almost all of their exports came to U.S. and investors owned a lot of farmland there. The Austin Manifesto demanded that Spain sell Cuba to the U.S., but didn't end up working out.
I love me a Cuban man.
Well, I'm only like 8% Cuban. Cuba wanted to be free from Spanish rule and win independence. Their economy went up because Spain decreased the tariff on sugar, but the U.S. did the exact opposite and raised theirs on sugar, destroying the Cuban economy.
That's so groovy.
Yeah. Anyway, Cuban revolutionaries saw the resulting Cuban Depression as the ideal moment to gain independence. Revolutionary forces began burning cane fields, killing Spanish soldiers, and making Spanish rule more costly. Spanish people rallied to their flag, and in one town, a mob attacked the U.S. consulate.
So great.
It's actually not that great.
I'm sorry, Cuban men really just distract me.
I'm not Cuban, man.
Wait, you're not Cuban?
Only like 8%.
Oh my god, get out, go, 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 go. This next guy better be Cuban.
Hi. You're really pretty.
Aren't you like 12?
Well, yes, but the doctors say I have a mind of a 40-year-old, and when I flex like this, I kind of look like I'm 18, don't I?
No. Wait, so you have the mind of a 40-year-old?
Yeah, watch this. In February of 1898, over 200 American sailors were killed when the battleship USS Maine blew up in Havana Harbor. Americans blamed Spain, and "Remember the Maine" became a rallying cry. And in the 4 months of fighting and the U.S. invasion of Cuba, 345 Americans were killed in action, while 5,000 died from disease.
Wait, didn't you have a lisp?
It comes in a goes, man.
Wow, you do have the mind of a 40-year-old. Keep going.
Okay. Well, Admiral George Dewey sailed the U.S. fleet to the Spanish-owned Philippine Islands. The 6 warships under Dewey's command quickly sank the Spanish fleet in the Battle of Manila Bay on May 1st, 1898. The American Pacific Fleet also captured the Spanish garrison on Guam Island and took control of the uninhabited atoll of Wake Island.
What else do you know?
Well, once control of Cuba seemed assured in July of 1898, McKinley ordered General Nelson A. Miles to Puerto Rico. Spain was ready to ask for peace. Much to McKinley's displeasure, the congressional resolution authorizing the war had included the Teller Amendment, named for Senator Henry Teller of Colorado, which he said the U.S. could not permanently annex Cuba. If the U.S. could not annex Cuba, Puerto Rico seemed like the next best permanent U.S. territory in the Caribbean.
Well, did they get Puerto Rico?
Spain ceded control of Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines to the U.S. for a payment of $20 million, and the U.S. was now a world power.
Billy, you have oboe practice. Get in the car.
Mom, I'm on a date!
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not.
Hey, Billy.
Oh my god, oh my god.
Hey, you must be my next date. So tell me, do you know anything about the war between the U.S. and the Philippines and the anti-imperialists? I'm really into history.
Of course I know about that war, like what kind of historian doesn't? Anti-imperialists were against the policy of extending the rule of a nation over foreign countries. That totally applies to arguments of whether the U.S. should have been controlling the Filipinos or not. President McKinley once said that there was nothing left for us to do but take them all and to educate the Filipinos and uplift and civilize and Christianize them. Dewey sort of screwed Aguinaldo over, and the Philippine War led to way more deaths of both American soldiers and Filipino people than the war with Spain.
So, do you know how the US citizens felt about all of this?
Oh, you know it. That's where the Anti-Imperialist League comes in. Founded in Boston in June 1898. This league included people such as Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Wentworth Higgins, Jane Addams, Grover Cleveland, and Charles W. Eliot.
So, you got anything else on the anti-imperialists?
Anti-imperialists believe the Constitution follows the flag, meaning all of the civil and political rights guaranteed in the Constitution should also be applied to other people under U.S. control, aka the Filipinos. Unfortunately, the Insular Cases declared that the Philippines and Puerto Rico were territories, not future states, and that those residing there were subjects, not citizens. Eventually, in 1901, a truce was settled on the islands, though U.S. troops remained until the Japanese invasion at the start of World War II. So, you want to hear about World War II now? I mean, I do love talking about history.
No, I'm really good. You can leave though.
Maybe I can find someone else to talk about World War.
Okay. Bye.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Maybe later?
Yeah, maybe. I'll give you my phone number after, maybe. This one looks like a keeper. So, do you know anything about Theodore Roosevelt and the foreign policies he inherited?
Well, I happen to have this picture of Roosevelt right here.
That's not Roosevelt.
Yes, he is. Well, Roosevelt became president in 1901 and inherited two major foreign policy issues, the war in the Philippines and the question of the Panama Canal. In 1905, Roosevelt added the Roosevelt Corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, saying that the U.S. had a right to intervene in any nation in the Americas that couldn't manage its own affairs. Roosevelt was also successful in negotiating a peace treaty between specific rivals Japan and Russia. Tensions with Japan over Asian immigration legislation led to the 1907 Gentleman's Agreement with Japan and the expansion of the U.S. Navy.
Do you know anything more about the Panama Canal?
The main reason for the canal was to make shorter travel by ship from Atlantic to the Pacific Oceans. Multiple challenges greeted the idea of the canal, such as mosquitoes and a hot, damp climate in the area needed to build the canal.
Do you happen to know anything about the Clayton-Bulwer Treaty?
In 1850, the U.S. and Britain negotiated the Clayton-Bulwer Treaty, stating that any canal would be a joint venture.
Tell me more about the Panama Canal.
Once the Panama declared independence, the United States quickly recognized it, and then Roosevelt proposed the canal to Panama with $10 million that had originally been offered to Colombia. In February 1904, Panama and the United States ratified a treaty giving America the right to the canal zone.
Can you tell me how Russia came into conflict with Japan?
Well, I could tell you about Putin and about how aliens are beginning to take over Moscow.
Not what I asked, but okay, you can go now. Okay, bye. Bye. Hurry up. Oh no. Maybe you'll please me with your Russia and Japanese knowledge. Can you tell me how Russia came into conflict with Japan?
Well, since Russia was expanding their territory, Russian Cossacks had asserted control of Asia-Siberia for Russia in the 1600s, and then looked west to North America and South Asia. Early in 1904, Japan was determined to stop Russia from acquiring influence in Manchuria and Korea. The Japanese destroyed 22 Russian ships.
Can you tell me how the United States got involved in this conflict?
Well, honey, I'm glad you asked.
Don't call me that, but go on.
Japanese sent a secret to Roosevelt asking him to be the mediator between Russia and Japan. Russian and Japanese representatives met in New Hampshire and discussed borders, money, and post-war plan.
I need a man who knows about the Japanese conflict during the time of Woodrow Wilson.
Tensions with Japan over anti-Asian immigration legislation led to the 1907 Gentleman's Agreement with Japan. The United States was heavily involved in Mexico and a number of other Latin American countries, and both Japan and Russia were displeased by some actions taken by the United States, such as segregation of the Japanese students.
Were there any other tensions with America and other Asian countries at the time?
Chinese tensions were also rising up against the U.S. The Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fist, or Boxers, led the
to the Boxer Rebellion in 1901, attacking all foreigners. Chinese citizens carried out anti-American posters and sang anti-American songs.
Can you tell me anything else about yourself?
Well, I have 3 measles, all named Matilda.
Get out, get out, get out, go, go, I think I have another date, but he's running late. You!